So we have a very fascinating live stream that we have for you today, right? We're going to touch into three different subjects. Number one, Khabib calling Conor McGregor to change his life, possibly converting to Islam. Perhaps. I think that's what he's trying to say. I'm going to give you my interpretation of exactly why that is. Also, Artem Lobov still suing Conor McGregor. What is the reason behind that? What is going on? What are the ulterior motives for Artem Lobov? Or does he really have the rights to the original idea of proper 12? And by this Ariel Helwani interview that I had seen today, I'm really going to go out of the limb and say that he does. I think that he absolutely understands the whiskey business. And not only does he understand the whiskey business, he understands that this was going to be a very lucrative deal for Conor McGregor and jumped right on the spot. So, yeah, we're going to delve into that right now. Let's see here. Okay. Just want to make sure that everybody is getting the notification on this one. Make sure that okay. So, all right. So we do have the audio going. That's good. We have the audio up. We just got to put in the thumbnail for this one. We got a thumbnail ready for this one. And oh yeah, the other subject that we're going to talk about is obviously Critical Eye MMA. Okay, just the biggest rise and the biggest downfall that I had ever seen on YouTube MMA. And I think it's going to be very interesting to bring up this subject as well because it sort of delves into the topic of free speech, right? What is the limits of free speech? And was he in the lines of free speech, or was it just hateful rhetoric that has no place in YouTube whatsoever? I'm going to let you decide on that. You know my stance on things. I believe in freedom of speech, but I also believe in self-preservation, right? So in other words, you can't go and crash out for apparent no reason, right? There has to be a good reason why you're going to crash out, why you're going to say the things that you're going to say, and what are the reasons behind them. But also talk in a very cryptic languages where your audience and the type of people you're trying to reach. All right, you know what? I understand what he's trying to say without saying it. That's the challenging part. But this guy just wanted to go in there and basically hammer everybody that he didn't like, every group that he didn't like, every group that he had a problem with. And we're going to look at some comments that many people have responded to me, you know, as a result of that particular content, you know, regarding Critical Eye MMA. There seems to be a lot of people that defended him. We're going to take a look at why. We're also going to take a look at Artem Lobov still suing Conor McGregor and his interview that he had with Khabib. I'm sorry, the interview that he had today with Ariel Helwani regarding the Khabib versus Conor McGregor beef that they had going on. So we're going to get to that, but we're also going to get to Khabib calling Conor McGregor to change his life, possibly going into Islam, right? At least that's my theory behind it. I'm going to tell you why, okay? But first, we're not going to go into any particular order with these topics. We're just going to go at all three of them all together, all at once, while we try and figure all of it out at the same time. So here we go. We're going to talk about Khabib calling McGregor to change his life. Artem Lobov suing for the rights of proper 12. Was it his idea? I'm going to tell you, the interview that I heard him with Ariel Helwani, I think really convinced me that he really has a stake to claim in this particular instance. And I think he's got a good chance of winning his civil case. And also Critical Eye MMA banned for hateful speech. We're going to talk about what is hateful speech and what is just reckless behavior, or what is the quintessential, how do you call it? The quintessential anti-free speech rhetoric when it comes to understanding the limits of free speech, right? So we're going to get to all of those topics, not in any particular order. But yeah, first, let's get to the Ariel Helwani interview today with Artem Lobov, because there was a lot of gems in this particular interview that I think a lot of people really need to take a look at. So, all right, let's get to it right now. So here we go. Artem Lobov today. I saw this live. I thought this was really interesting, and I thought this was a good content to talk about, right? And I'm very surprised not many people right now are reacting to the Artem Lobov Conor McGregor interview in the Ariel Helwani show, right? Not a lot of people are making a content about it, but I am, and I decided I'm going to do it live rather than doing a video about it, because might take quite a long time to explain the intricacies of this matter. But on any regard, here we are. Let's get it cracking.
Again, and I know that fight bothers Conor because he didn't train at all for that fight. Twice a week he was training for Khabib.
So he starts out the interview saying, I know that he did not train for that fight. He trained twice a week for Khabib, which is insane. Like, he trained twice a week. I mean, is that an exaggeration, or is that a real number? Well, we're going to find out on this one, so let's check it out.
Let us move along to our next guest. So very exciting to talk to this man. It has been, as the kids say, a minute since we last spoke to him. It's been several years, to be exact. And quite frankly, when I started the week, didn't think that he'd be on this Tuesday. But then we woke up on Monday and saw a post that he was returning to MMA for the first time in 7 years, fighting this October under the PFL umbrella in Abu Dhabi against his old bitter rival Zubaira Tukhugov. It is the GOAT himself, the pride of both Russia and Ireland, the Russian hammer himself, Artem Lobov. Is he actually here? I don't believe it. There he is. Artem,
yes, boys.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back and great to see you, Ariel.
It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much, Artem. It's so great to have you back. It's so great to talk to you again. And so, is this in fact true? You essentially broke the news. Is this true? Are you coming back in October?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I was signing the contract with Mike Hogan, he told me that, look, Artem, you can start, promoting the fight. This is a big fight for us. We want to, see.
So for those of you that don't know, Artem Lobov is now going to fight Zubaira, his longtime rival that was the stablemate of Khabib, which ultimately started this whole entire fight. In this entire interview, he goes into details about how this beef started, what his reason was, and what him and Khabib had said to each other in the interaction during this beef. He mentions that him and Khabib talked alone, allegedly, and then him and Khabib talked again with a different group of people that may have pushed him into perhaps maybe going on a group action against Artem Lobov. But in any regard, we're going to get to all of it, and we're going to analyze everything that Artem Lobov has to say in this particular interview right now. And guys, like and subscribe. Not many people are reacting or doing content on this particular interview, which has a lot of gems on it. Let's get to it. Baby says hi. How you doing? Shout outs to Baby and everyone that's in the chat. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe button. Let's get to it.
You promote it the way you can, get it all out there. So I said, look, as soon as I sign my contract, I'm going to announce it and start promoting it, which is what I've done. I signed the contract and straight away I pumped it out there and let the world know.
So now he is allowed to talk about this fight because it is officially signed by the PFL. By the way, it is going to be on the same card as Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes Part 2. How are you? I'm very good. Thank you for asking. Drizzy Goat says McGregor is overrated as F. Islam Ilya would have mauled him in his prime. I agree. I agree to that. But I tell you what, this whole entire conversation with Conor McGregor won't be so much about him fighting. Although he is part of fighting, he is the biggest name in the culture of fighting and within the world in the realm of combat sports. But it's more about the personality and the life lessons we're going to learn out of Conor McGregor. And, of course, fight talks as well, but more so with Artem Lobov and his fight that he has coming up. and so on and so forth. But yes, I agree with that take, Drizzy Goat.
Know that this fight is finally happening. Yeah, and I can't wait to get my hands on him finally.
Okay, and so are you coming back, Artem, because it's Zubaira, or were you always planning on coming back and they were able to make this fight?
You know, if you recall the last interview I've ever done, it was with you, you know, when I was retiring. And I told you, you asked me, Artem, is there any way you will come back? Is this going to be a fake retirement like many that we've seen? Or is this a real retirement? Are you going to be back very soon? And I told
Yeah, most guys say that they are going to retire, but in reality, they're only going to come back if, let's say, it's a certain lucrative name that is attractive to them. In this case, Zubaira was a very attractive name for Artem Lobov due to the fact that him and Zubaira had ongoing beef going on, and as a result of that, it transitioned into this right now, where Zubaira had last fought, I believe, in the UFC somewhere in 22. And Artem Lobov hasn't fought in the UFC for a while. He's been in bare knuckle. Obviously, he got kicked out due to the, I believe, the fight that had gone on, or I believe he was supposed to fight Zubaira weeks after, but it never happened. Marty Miller says there was a short period of time where McGregor was something special. Very true. Now, the problem with McGregor, I think, well, I'm going to let Artem talk about this one because he gives full, conclusive details into why we are seeing the Conor McGregor that we are seeing today.
I told you, Ariel, there's only two things that can get me back. If I get offered 7 figures, or it's a fight against Khabib. And I said that the fight against him is definitely going to happen. So that no matter what, I'm going to make that fight happen. It's going to take place, and we're going to settle the score. So this is exactly what happened here. You know, I felt this was the right time. You know, I'm not getting any younger.
Drizzy Goat says Dustin finished him for a good, beat McNugget twice. He hasn't been back since. That's very true. I think how underrated is it that we forget of the effects that Justin Gaethje has created towards Conor McGregor. He busted up his chin. Not only that, look, a lot of the other problems that is sort of preventing McGregor to get back into the cage right now is primarily predicated on all the things that Khabib had mentioned as to why he prays for Conor McGregor and wishes for him to come back in, how do I say this, more of a godly matter, which, again, the reason why I titled it what I titled it is because what Khabib is trying to convey is that he wants Conor McGregor, in a nutshell, to come to Islam. Now, what exactly does Islam mean in the Arabic language, right? Well, if you look at the key word in Islam, it means submission. The biggest common misconception that a lot of people have about Islam is that they say it's the religion of peace. It is not. Okay, it's a religion of submission. Okay, the ultimate goal is peace, but sometimes there are other means that you have to perform in order to somehow create peace. But it is not, in any circumstances, does it mean peace. It means submission to God. So what exactly does that mean? Well, that means that if you're going to submit to God, that means you have to forsake everything that is a part of this world. That means you have to give up whiskey. That means you have to give up all these haram movies that you're doing. That means you have to give up all these haram behaviors that you do. And we've seen all those haram behaviors that Conor McGregor does. So he has to disengage from this particular life and submit himself to God. So in that essence, I do look at it as Khabib inviting him to Islam. Now, is Khabib realistically really inviting Conor McGregor to the Islamic faith? I'm going to be realistic beyond the title that I wrote on this live stream, and I'm going to say no. But what I mean by when I say that he's asking Conor to submit to God, that's the literal meaning of what I say. Artem Lobov, Conor McGregor, Khabib is calling Conor McGregor to Islam. So let's continue on with Artem, though. He's got some very interesting takes on this. Drizzy Goat says Aldo KO was a fluke. What? Oh, you're talking about with Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo? Yeah. I think that was where his war games mentality really came into play in terms of giving him an advantage. But yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. All right, so let's continue on.
And I didn't want to wait any longer because then it just would be ridiculous, two lads in wheelchairs, trying to fight.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point. The reason why he took this fight straight away with Zubaira is because he knows that time is ticking and that he did not want him and Zubaira to be fighting each other while they are in a wheelchair or this, that, and the other. Right now, Artem is a little bit older, a little bit more grayer, but you know what? He is getting out there and getting those fights in, unlike Conor McGregor, who unfortunately is a victim of his own circumstances, being a big star, which entail makes it more difficult to create fights for Conor McGregor to continue on. But speaking of continuing on, let's continue on with Artem on this one.
Yeah, right. Let me do it, But, I have been in talks with different promotions, especially from Russia. I've had a few offers, but I just didn't really, it didn't ignite the fire in me, and the offers weren't big enough, so I was turning them down. However, once I realized there's a possibility for me to fight the Hugov, I was, the fire was lit up again, and I was ready to go.
So we last spoke January 5th, 2022. That's your last interview?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was it. I did an interview with you, and that was it. I did not do any more interviews. I didn't do any media. That was it. I just kind of,
So what have you been doing the last 3.5 years?
Yeah, so when I retired, I knew already I was going to.
Well, a big part of what he's been doing in those past 3 years is probably try to fight this case that he has with Conor McGregor, which, by the way, he continues to elaborate on as we continue on with this one.
Been working with my friend in the UK. He's got a construction company. He's always kind of supporting me throughout my fighting career, and I knew there was a job for me with him. When I retired, so I've just been normal. Wage life. Which is good in some sense. It's a lot quieter. It's a lot more kind of.
So during that time, some of the things that Artem was doing was sort of what he calls living the wage life, sort of working in construction and this and that. So yeah.
Stable, but I'm not gonna lie. I did find it a little boring sometimes, and I did struggle. I'd be watching the events and. I'm not gonna lie, I did definitely miss fighting. So once this fight was announced, once I saw that I can fight again, I'm not even joking. Like something just, inside me just changed. I feel this burn again, this fire, this excitement, and I'm nervous, but I feel alive again. It's honestly, it's good that I've decided to do it. I think if I haven't done it, I would always be regretting it. And I can't wait to put on a good show for the fans and get my hands on Tuhugov and finally, show him what can happen when it's just.
Hey guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are reacting to Artem Lobov on Conor McGregor fallout and him coming out of retirement, talking about the beef with Khabib, and also Khabib calling Conor McGregor to submit himself to God.
It's one-on-one, me against him.
And so are you leaving that job, or are you just taking a break and then returning after the
Taking a break. Just going to take a break now for, obviously camp. I'm taking this camp very seriously, so I'm not going to be doing any work. I'm just going to be, fully concentrated on the camp, training twice a day, doing loads of sparring, planning to go up to Belfast to spar Paul Hughes and the boys there. They've been kind enough to give me an invite, so got a lot of good sparring partners here as well. Richard Smolin, obviously, as BG Ireland, my home. We do a lot of training there as well. So I'm gonna leave no stone unturned. Don't be distracted by a few gray hairs on my beard and mustache. The hammer is still ready to go, and my testosterone is as high as ever.
I love it. And so, are you coming back for just one fight? Is it just this one and then you're done, or? Are you open to other?
I'm not really sure, to be honest, in terms of professional.
So from what it seems is that the PFL gave him a one-fight contract against Zubaira. My guess on that is that they probably see Zubaira as the favorite in that one. More than likely probably winning by a wrestling decision. And he kind of talks about it here, why he believes this fight is going to go in that particular direction with Zubaira really using the wrestling aspect of his game to try and win this fight, even though I would say Zubaira has had a lot of fights where he has used stand-up, but
Professional MMA, potentially maybe one and done, but I wouldn't mind, getting into some of them celebrity boxing, shows that Jake Paul and the Misfits have been organizing.
And you know what?
Seems to be really good there. The event.
And this boxing stuff seems to have been an outlet for a lot of former MMA fighters. This is the thing that I have to say about boxing, right? It's less wear and tear on your body than MMA is. MMA is a high wear and tear on your body just based on the constant explosion and the constant anaerobics that you have to put up. So as a result, yes, it is very detrimental to your body. But with boxing, it's a little bit more of an aerobic workout where it's not really damaging to your body in the way that MMA is. So it is a good natural transition that you see a lot of MMA fighters do. Obviously, Darren Till has been a great example of that. Now Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero in the bare knuckle aspect of boxing. Austin Trout, well, okay, yeah, he's a boxer, but he went into BKFC. Ben Rothwell, Mike Perry. The list goes on of all the guys that have transitioned into boxing or some form of boxing. Now Robbie Lawler, obviously Artem Lobov.
And so always massive, a lot of viewership, big numbers, always sold out events. So I wouldn't mind, doing something like this potentially. Also, I'm planning to have a bigger family now. We're hoping to have another kid soon, trying for another baby, so I need a bigger house.
Love it.
So definitely, I think I'm gonna have another 1 or 2 fights. But this is first. I gotta get to move out of the way. It's been bothering me all these years. It's a fight that I've been thinking about so much. And I just have to do it. I feel I can't move on otherwise. I need this fight to be able to move on in my life.
Okay, so
the way that he describes it there, it shows that there is serious animosity even till now, right? Stemming back from 2018 all the way till now. Yeah, it's still a beef that they have going on. And yeah, man, he's waiting for him to he's waiting to get his hands on him after all this time, and now he has a chance to finally do it, which, by the way, correlates into what we're talking about with Khabib asking Conor McGregor to change his life, because he believes that all of this that is happening to him right now is a punishment. But we're going to get to more of that in a second.
The whole incident between the two of you happened 7 years ago, right? More than 7 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Why does it still bother you so much? Well, why is there still this animosity?
And also, it's interesting, yeah, why does it bother him so much, especially when him and Conor are no longer friends, right? You would probably think that maybe he would defect to the other side. Maybe that's a possibility, but obviously he sort of details more things in this interview, right? He mentions that there is a possibility that he can run across Conor McGregor because Artem still trains in that same gym, surprisingly. But like Artem said, he barely sees Conor in that gym. So that kind of tells you where Conor is at in his current, fight career right now.
Well, if you remember, initially Khabib approached me alone. It was just him. And me and him spoke and we sorted everything. He said to me, listen, why are you talking shit about me? I said, look, if somebody called, your friend...
Supervision says West Wednesday. Okay, I like that, West Wednesday. And he's got an emoji of a whole bunch of other things there. Shout out to Supervision. Let me know what part of the world you are from, my man. West Friday, West Wednesday. All right, man. Shout out to you.
The names that you've been calling,
It's still Tuesday here in the West Coast of the United States. So, yeah, shout out to you, my man.
Taken and all this, which I told you before in Russian, it's a lot more severe. I said, listen, if somebody was calling your friend that, you for sure would respond. So what do you think I'm going to do? You leave me no choice by talking like this. Especially, we've been so friendly with him all the time, meeting at different events, always shaking hands. Conor never went at Khabib. Khabib was the one that initiated this. So I said, I had to reply. He said, wow.
So that's a very interesting take that Artem Lobov says, right? He says that it was Khabib that started all of this, when in reality, I mean, you look at all the documents, whether it is from other people's documentaries or the embeddeds that was happening at that time, UFC media, it all stems and points towards Conor McGregor as the antagonist of some kind of way. But that's not the case, at least in Artem's accounts here. Shout outs to Free Palestine. He said something to me in Arabic right there. Shout outs to you.
Whatever, just don't say anything else. And he walked off. That was it. But then he came back with a gang of people, and suddenly he had to.
By the way, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to get to the juicy part of this right now. Now Artem is going to talk about how, we were fine when we were just talking one-on-one. Now you want to bring a gang of people here. What is going on here?
Exact same question again. And I was a bit confused, like, what's going on? Me and you just sorted it, 2 of us, one-on-one, and now with the 10 guys with you, you suddenly have more questions for me. And of course, if you recall, the Khubov was there, very vocal, he was screaming at me, saying, oh, why don't you say it not to my face? So, well, let's go to Khubov one-on-one, and I will say it to your face, Obviously, as you know, to Khubov outside of the cage, you're not going to mess with him too much, because as he himself many times mentioned, he's a relative of the Chechen president, Ramzan Kadyrov, and this man is not to be met.
So there it is, right? He is the president of he is the cousin of Ramzan Kadyrov, Zubairov. So Artem is saying that, hey, you know what? This man is a cousin of a dictator. This is not a man to be messed with. So he would rather fight him in the cage rather than try to fight him outside of some, unconventional tactical means.
Messed with, he is very well respected and feared, in Russia and across the globe, So of course, there's nothing I can do outside, and to be honest, I don't want to live that life, messing outside,
There it is. So that's smart of Artem Lobov. He says, you know what? This is a very dangerous man outside of the cage, very well respected in Russia, and not only that, respected around the world. Man, yeah, Ramzan Kadyrov could probably send some hitmen around your way if he wanted to. So,
fuck up your life, end up in prison or in the hospital. Who wants that? So let's do it like real men, one-on-one, because he talked a big game, but when I watched at his fights, he doesn't look that brave. And
there you go. He says, you know what? Let's just do it man to man, because I can't do anything to you outside of the cage. He's claiming that, and he knows that. But he knows that there are other ways and other means of doing so.
Right, a lot of the time he backs off, looks for wrestling all the time, he taps out. You're talking to a man that never tapped out, talking to a man that never pulled out of a fight, and I accepted the fight against anyone, anytime, any place. So, I said, let's get in the cage and settle it like professional fighters that we are.
And you were supposed to fight in October of 2018, right? Just a few weeks after Conor's fight against Khabib, and then it got canceled.
Yeah, that's right. He was supposed to fight just a couple of weeks after Conor, and then it got canceled, and he explains here why.
And that was because of the whole melee that happened afterwards, right? That was the UFC decision?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, and that's another reason, just even there, what is he doing, to Khubov? Like, you're jumping into the cage of a fighter that just had a fight, is exhausted, and you're jumping with a big gang of you, and you're so brave, and attacking him. Come on, that's not a way to be.
Now look, on most instances, he's right. Okay, going back to 2018, he's absolutely right about that. Right? There was no need to. Well, on most circumstances, you would say that there was no right of anybody to go in there and do that. But you realize some of the things that Conor has said leading up to that fight. It almost kind of seems justified to do so. But on any regard, listen, these are Artem's accounts, and this is just my reaction to it.
Hey, you want to jump like this and be aggressive? Well, let's go. We're going to fight no one-on-one, and let's see how aggressive he will be. I bet you he'll be wrestling from the changing rooms. He'll be just holding you down, and he won't want to fight. He won't want to engage. But this is your chance. You came in with.
And you know what? I'm going to have to agree with Artem on that one. He may just do exactly that because, look, Artem is no joke on the feet. Did you realize what Artem did against Paulie Malignaggi in essentially a boxing match? We explained earlier how boxing is the natural transition for a lot of aging MMA fighters because it's a lot easier on your body. but you also got to understand the kind of skills that a lot of MMA fighters are bringing in there, and the kind of skills that Artem has brought in there to box against Paulie Malignaggi. So, of course, Zubaira understands the inherent danger of going in there and trying to go strike for strike with Artem Lobov. But on any regard, yeah, this is what we have right here as a mixed martial arts fight, and he is going to try to take him down on the ground based on that alone.
With punches at Conor, well, let's see you come with punches at me now.
Were there any other talks, opportunities brought to your attention about fighting him since then? Since that fight that got canceled, since you left the UFC, was this ever close to happening in the past 7 years?
No, there hasn't been, because obviously, if you recall, he was in the UFC still, but he was suspended for a year.
Yeah.
He decided to remain in the UFC, and for me, I was like, I had a kid on the way, and I needed to be making money. You know, I wasn't sure what's going to happen with the UFC. When are they going to give me another fight? And I had a massive bare knuckle contract on my table. So I said, look, I'm not waiting a year for him, and I wasn't even sure if he was going to be allowed to fight back. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I left the UFC, went bare knuckle. He stayed in the UFC, so then that was not possible, you know.
Yeah. So now they're in a career trajectory right now where it is possible, and not only that, notice where this fight is taking place at, right? Dubai, okay, that's one. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit of an advantage for Zubaira. Not only that, Paul Hughes is the co-main event, along with Usman Nurmagomedov. Big rivalry goes back into this Ireland versus Russia, Ireland versus the Muslim guys type of fight that they have going on. But yeah, perfect timing right now. And then the PFL right now is in need of a lot of stars, right? They are in desperate need of a lot of stars, and now they brought in Artem. They brought in this guy. So perfect timing to get this cracking right here and now. So
yeah.
Is this fight happening at 165?
Yeah, so I said, listen, I'll accept any term. They said, for me, I want that fight no matter what. So they came back with 165. I said, no problem, make it 175 if you want, 185, I don't care. Yeah, so okay. 165.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that you would fight him even for free. I hope you're getting paid for this.
Yeah, to be honest, that's how the conversation went with Mike. Mike said that.
Now, we've talked about fighter pay quite a few times here, right? Notice about a couple of things that he talks about here with fighter pay.
What do you want? What kind of person you want? I said, listen, Mike, I don't care. I'm zero here. I don't care about this, you know. But he was saying, look, I can't do it free, you know. It has to be some person. He's giving me some person. I didn't negotiate at all, just whatever. But you know, the good thing, I will be able to pay my team. You know, my coaches gonna do good work, so I'll be able to pay them. And I'll make a nice donation as well to a kids charity, you know, so it's, some good will come of it for sure.
Okay, and have you seen him ever in any sort of like event, street, like have you guys locked eyes on each other since 2018?
Not really. No, okay. I have not seen them at all anywhere.
Yeah, so that's interesting. They obviously never seen each other after that. They went on with their lives and got on with different fights and different events, but all of a sudden now here they are reignited into this new beef. Or is it beef? Maybe they'll shake hands after the fact. You never know. Ooh, here's my prediction on this, right? Him and Artem have a crazy fight. Once that crazy fight happens, they shake hands, and you're going to see Conor on Twitter give his take on it, saying how much of a wussy Artem was, basically being friendly with the enemy, this, that, and the other, and then it's going to reignite more of beef with Artem and Conor. Eventually, I think Artem needs to fight Conor. I think at this point right now, there's a great chance Artem could probably beat Conor McGregor. If not, Artem Lobov would probably be the only fight, honestly, that would be in Conor's possibility of using a comeback win of some sort, right? And then there's beef and rivalry behind it.
Any concern about fight week? What do they say? Just to make sure that nothing happened between the two of you before the fight, right? There's a lot of animosity here. Clearly, what are they saying as far as security and preventing things from happening?
We didn't really talk with PFL about that, but you know, obviously, let's do it in the cage. You know what I mean? Any attempt to try and jeopardize the fight, you know, for me, I see what this is. You know, trying to get out of the fight. Come on, make it to the cage and let's go. You can be as aggressive as you want in there. You can do whatever you want in there. You know, let's go. You know, this is your chance. Well, what is?
So the fact that Zubaira and Artem are fighting in Dubai, I think would make it even worse due to the fact that I think they would encourage more fights to have. Like, look, you got to think, right? In the Emirati Authority, they're going to look at this and say, oh, well, here's a bunch of cage fighters that are brawling and fighting each other. Okay, well, they're cage fighters. It's what they do, right? As opposed to, let's say, if it was to happen in Nevada. Now, if you remember when that happened with Khabib and Conor after the fact, Dana was on the press conference saying, oh my goodness, did you know that the governor of Nevada was here? Oh, God forbid, the governor of Nevada was here. So he is so offended by all of this. But yeah.
Is there a need to jump outside the cage and then say something when we have a fight scheduled? You know, I'm ready to fight you and I'm showing up.
The PFL World Tournament Finals. 1 win away from being crowned champion. It's going to be an absolute battle. The PFL World Tournament Finals begin August 1st.
You know, just show up and that's it.
One fight deal with PFL?
Yeah, one fight deal. One fight deal
wow.
with PFL.
In Dubai?
Yeah. In Dubai, yeah. To be honest, Dubai sounds like a good location, you know, to fight. I've been there before just for a holiday. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, you know, and it's going to be good. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, you know, Russian fans. There's going to be a lot of Irish fans. So
I think it'll be more pro Zubaira.
I think over there might be 50-50 because obviously, you know, Paul Hughes is also on the card.
That is a good point. I think that would be a 50-50 fight as well. I agree with Artem Lobov on that one.
And Kieran Laughlin as well is on the card. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of Irish fans for them also there who I think would support me. There's going to be a lot of Russian people supporting me as well. So I'd say it's going to be even off. I don't know, but that's kind of my kind of thoughts on that.
Okay. And as far as training is concerned, you mentioned SPG, your old mates. Are you still being trained by John Kavanaugh?
Well, John is not really. He doesn't really coach as much anymore. You know, he's not as much there. There's different coaching now for him.
Wow, so that's interesting, right? John Kavanaugh is no longer coaching as much anymore now. Who would have thought, right? I would have thought that if there was anybody that was holding down the SBG Ireland gym, it would be John Kavanaugh, but I guess not. I guess they brought in different people to coach and continue on with what is going on. But guys, stay tuned. It gets to an even juicier part than this. Right now, he's only talking about the MMA portion of this story. Wait till he gets to the proper 12 story. Oh my goodness, I can't wait.
MMA team. But I definitely will be doing work with Narius there, who's a jiu-jitsu coach there. He's excellent. You know, Baby Jones, you know, my boxing coach, he's definitely going to be doing work with him in SBG. Then actually, my good old friend Johnny Dargan is back as well. So he said he's going to help me out. You know, working with some of my kicks, you know, and surprise those Zubaira with a couple of, you know, tricks up my sleeve.
Well, there you go. Already giving up some strategy right there, right? Saying that he's going to try and throw some kicks in there, which ultimately is going to incentivize Zubaira to use takedowns even more, because there's nothing better for a wrestler than to fight a kicker, right? They fight a kicker. Guess what the kicker is going to do? They're going to be very predictable to the notion that they're just going to throw kicks all day, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And it's going to be easy for the wrestler to go in there and catch it as a result of it. So.
And as I mentioned, you know, I'm hoping to go up to Belfast, you know, for some good sparring with the boys up there. You know, they have a really, really good team now. They're very strong fighters. I mean,
and by the way, he's also, I'm talking about Artem Lobov. He's also going to train with Paul Hughes. And by the way, Paul Hughes has a little bit of some beef with Conor McGregor, interestingly enough. So think about that and keep that in mind.
I'm always sad, but I think they've kind of peaked now. You know, they're at the top now. So it will be very good to mix in with them and sharpen the tools, against the top level guys. I've seen how Paul used them against Magomedov in the last fight. It was a very close fight, but in my opinion, Paul won. So for sure, this is high level, high level fighter, and that's exactly the kind of fighter that I want to work with.
So we were talking a few minutes ago with your old friend Pete Carroll as well, Artem, who you know very well, about the history of this feud, and obviously a lot of it centered around what happened between Conor and Khabib, and an unfortunate,
Yeah, shout out to Pete Carroll, probably one of the best Irish MMA journalists there is, right? I mean, when it comes to anything Irish MMA, he absolutely knows his stuff with that. So, yeah, man, shout out to him on that one. Okay, so let's get back to this video right here.
The byproduct of all this is that, unfortunately, you and Conor aren't as close as you once were. We were sort of talking and reminiscing about how close you used to be, how you were the best of friends, training partners, how you always supported him and he always supported you. And it really felt like a loving and genuine friendship that you had. I remember seeing you at Maymax, showing up the night before, like you said, you would have missed it for the world. And not wanting to relitigate everything that happened between you two, but it is sad to see. I think a lot of your fans and his fans would say that. Could you tell us, where do things stand between you and Conor from a personal and a legal standpoint, because it has spilled into the courts? So
Okay, so now this is where the interview starts to get really interesting, and I need you to buckle down and listen to this, okay? Because this is where it gets really, really, really interesting. Okay, so let's get to the interesting stuff on this right here.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, obviously things are not good between me and Conor. As you said, we always had each other's back. I feel I showed him unmatched loyalty. I would dare for him to name anyone from all of his mates now, before, whenever, who was more loyal to him than I was. I did everything for him. Whenever we would do camps, I was the only one to never accept a cent from him. There would always be money paid to everybody that done the camps, and rightfully so. Because it was hard work. But I would always turn it down and say, Conor, I'm not taking this. You're my brother, and I'm not taking money for training for you. The agreement has always been that.
Okay, now there's something I find really disturbing about that, right? So as Conor is paying everybody, it is him who is basically saying, no, I don't want any of this, right? I don't want any of the money. So what do you think Conor is thinking in his head as he's seeing that everybody is asking for money and this guy isn't? You know what Conor is thinking? I could absolutely exploit this guy right here, right? And I'm telling you, I don't know anything about Conor McGregor's psychological background. I'm not going to try to give him a diagnosis or anything right like that, but I need you to imagine, right, if Conor McGregor is, let's say, a sociopath in some kind of way, I mean, is it that far-fetched that he is going to take this route and try to snake Artem in that kind of way? Probably not that far-fetched.
If I help him, with business, I help him make money, well, then he's going to give me my cut. And in the past, when I've done deals for him, like, for example, I've done a deal with him with Match TV, and he was based on our agreement, he was meant to pay me $6,000, and he actually paid me.
I remember that. That's where Conor McGregor had, I think, visited both Ukraine and Russia at the time, and he did a little open workout there, and I believe a Dagestani showed up and tried to throw a shoe at him, very similar to that of a journalist that tried to throw his shoe at George Bush in Iraq. So
20,000. He always looked after me. There's never been an issue, with money with us. And for this, deal as well, whiskey deal, it was so. This was such a massive deal for me, such an important, deal for me, because people think, oh, whiskey, what's whiskey? Just drink, but not at all. If you look historically, Irish whiskey has been such an important product for Ireland.
Now listen to this. Listen to the historical background that Artem Lobov goes into with this one, right? There's a lot of historical background in terms of how the Irish had used whiskey in order to fund their war and revolution against Great Britain, and he goes into details about it right here.
Back in the day, they used to, during the Prohibition era, they would and they would sell Irish whiskey to US in exchange for weapons so they could fight for their freedom. Imagine how notorious is that. And even back in the day also, you know, when Ireland was, England was suppressing them all the time and destroying them, and you know, they didn't have anything, but they never gave up.
Oh, wow. Take a look at this, what Artem has right here. So he's showing some text messages of him and Conor. He's saying, I have full trust in the Irish legal system and look forward to clearing my name in the high court. I have been the most loyal friend to Conor. Never allowed myself to take money from the brother from his camps because we help each other achieve our dreams. It's been an honor to help uh, for me to help him build his biggest business. So, and then he basically drops all these, hey, what's up, Mr. Burberry? How you doing, my man? Shout out to Mr. Burberry for dropping in. We got some interesting topics that we are talking about, obviously, with Artem Lobov and his Ariel Hawani interview today, where he dropped some serious gems on his particular storyline with Conor McGregor.
And whiskey was helping them fight that fight, you know, because they had no medication, they had no nothing.
So now, yeah, he's talking about how whiskey was not only used to fund the wars in Ireland, right, during the Prohibition, where they had sold whiskey and liquor to America, sort of like the Daniel Kenahans of their day, right? Sort of what Daniel Kenahan now does with cocaine and whatnot. But on any regard, yeah.
I think that's.
Oh, and also how whiskey was used as some sort of proper medicine for open wounds and whatnot. So, very interesting historical stuff he's bringing up here.
It was called the War of Life because if you get a cut or something, you know, you can die from an infection, but you use whiskey, you disinfect yourself. Food poisoning, you drink a little whiskey, it will help settle the stomach. If you got high fever, you know, you spread whiskey all over you, and as it evaporates, it cools down the body, you know. And also when they were sitting, you know, around fire, no 800 years of war, no chance of winning this massive enemy, you know, they would drink a little bit of whiskey, it would warm the heart, sting a few ballads, you know, and get the power to continue the fight, you know, to not give up and earn their freedom, you know. So when I told this to Conor, you know, he told me to go and see what can I get, you know, and I did not leave a single stone unturned. At the time when I put the whiskey together, there was actually only 6 companies that were able to produce their own whiskey, you know, and I could see the potential in it.
So here we go. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is where I think Artem Lobov can absolutely win his case against Conor McGregor, because he actually went out of his way to talk with whiskey making companies, right? People that were able to make these things, find out certain ingredients. I mean, he did a lot of legwork here, and I think that he can absolutely prove it, which, by the way, is going to help him get paid out. But let us see right here.
Because Irish whiskey sales were fast approaching Scotch whiskey sales. However, there was only 6 factories making, 6 distilleries making Irish whiskey, and 144 distilleries making Scotch whiskey. So I could clearly see there was a massive gap in the market, you know. And most importantly, when I tried to do the whiskey, at the time, despite being such a big gap, entry-level whiskeys did not perform well at all on the market. It was only the higher-level whiskeys, you know, the top shelf, as you want to call them. So whenever I was approaching all these industry experts and different distilleries, they all pushed for Conor to do an expensive whiskey. However, I understood Conor's fan base. I understood that it needs to be entry-level whiskey, you know, and I took a lot of...
So this is a good point that Artem Lobov just made right here, right? How much is he trying to get? 6 million, my man. He is trying to get 6 million. So this is a good point right here that Artem Lobov just made, right? He said, what did he say here? Hold on while I turn on my light here. Okay. Okay. He said that he was pushing for low brand whiskey, okay, entry level brand whiskey. The reason why he's pushing for that is because he knows that the majority of Conor's demographics are going to be low income, middle class, working class fans, right? So if Artem can prove that he has substantial evidence to show that he has influenced these ideas, right, in terms of the market value, in terms of the projection of returns that they were anticipating on making, he has a very good shot of winning this case.
Convincing from my part to make sure that we do an entry level whiskey. And what you get with entry level whiskey is, number one, you get the volume, because entry level.
So there you go. The reason why he pushed for it is because, number one, you get the volume.
Whiskey is what gets used to in cocktails, in if you mix whiskey and coke or whatever, so you get the volume, and that's where the price of the company comes from. That's why right now it is valued at nearly $2 billion.
So right now it's valued at nearly $2 billion. Proper 12.
And with the entry level whiskey, it gives you an opportunity to build on that. If you release an expensive whiskey, you can never.
So there you go, right? Gives you an opportunity to build on that. You have entry level. Now after that, you can move on to the higher end stuff of things.
Then release a cheaper one. Say, oh look, we have this cheap one. However, if you start entry level, you can then release 8-year-old.
I don't know about you, but everything that I'm hearing out of this right now, Artem has a very good chance of winning this case. Look, he seems to have done his homework on this. He has a lot of substantial evidence that shows he knows what he's talking about with this. Mr. Burberry says, yeah, $6 million is a drop in the bucket. I mean, you know what? There was somebody in here that was part of that whole little meeting that him and Artem and Conor had, one of Conor's old friends, and he said that he got $4 million out of it. So I hope he does win. There's a good chance that he wins, and it kind of goes back into Khabib saying that a lot of this is a punishment from Allah, which I believe Khabib is. And if that's the case, man, I'm telling you, Allah is on the side of Artem Lobov on this one, right? I think that they are absolutely going to cook Conor, and this absolutely is going to ruin Conor to bits, right? Like, I'm not going to be surprised if Conor goes broke in 10 years. Think about it, right? He has to fight if he wants to stay afloat.
12-year-old, and build it into standalone successful company, and that is exactly what happened. And it's unfortunate that this situation happened like this with me and Conor. I have a feeling that my personal opinion is that manager had something to do there as well.
So he's blaming El-Kheer on this whole entire thing. Watch this.
The time they were trying to get Conor to sign this option, as we all know that Conor does know the whiskey now, and I was very much against it, because what an option means is that if the whiskey fails, that means Conor gets nothing. If, however, is massive success as it is, his profits are limited to what the strike price is on the whiskey.
So his profits are limited if they do really well, and if it fails and he gets nothing. That's a lose situation right there. Mr. Burberry says, I don't know about that. He's pretty rich. His cocaine habit would have to increase. I mean, you know what? Not pocket watching anybody, but if people are constantly getting millions and millions off of you, I mean, that has to hurt you in some kind of way, right?
On the option. And I was so against that. I was like, why would you do that? That's a lose-lose situation for Conor. He's the A side in this. And I said, if we are going to send an option, well, then let's at least do it for the market rate. Why is the strike price on the option below the market rate? Like, that makes no sense. Why do you want to agree?
So you see, everything that Artem is talking about here, he sounds like he knows exactly what he's talking about and has planned this through.
Right now, before it's even launched, to sell it in a few years' time below the market rate, especially when we already had pre-orders for the whiskey before it even launched. So obviously I was fighting for every cent for Conor. I was so angry.
And you know what? I feel bad because Artem Lobov is such a loyal soldier that he's been there for Conor all throughout this time, has helped him with his fights, has helped him with his ideas. Was his ride or die soldier, and it's just insane how it ended up like this.
With Audi, for proposing this bad deal for Conor, and I feel that's where our relation failed, you know. And unfortunately, yes, I did get fucked over on this deal, even though Conor shook my hand and promised me 5% no matter what. But I guarantee you, I can't wait to be in court and show that Conor was actually proper fucked on this deal, you know. And this is why I have to go to court. I cannot leave this like this, you know. This is too big of a story to just let it die out in the...
Wait, so he's saying that I can't wait to go to court just to show that Conor was proper effed in this, but at the same time, how and why would that help your case? Now, is it that you're just trying to expose this, or is it that you're really trying to win a case? Because I don't understand how how exposing Conor being F on this deal is somehow related to showing that you had a huge contribution to this. But we'll see.
In obscurity. I need to shine light on this and show who was a true and loyal friend and who was actually a snake.
And I appreciate that response. I appreciate the backstory as well. Thank you for that, Artem. Your perspective.
Yeah, no, that was great. And look at Ariel here saying, yeah, I thank you for your perspective here, this and that. And the other man, he dropped some gems off for you on this one. So
this is appreciated. You're asking for 5%, right? That's what you want. Your 5% share.
Yeah, because.
And what does that equal to, in your opinion? Is it 6 million?
I think it's yes, I think 6.5 million or 7 million.
Euro.
The thing is, because now when I launched this, you know, I found a lot of stuff online, and there was actually a guy involved in this deal as well. He was the guy responsible for preparing the label for the bottle that was shown.
So it was a guy that was responsible for preparing the label, okay, and he got 4 million out of this. So if you think that Artem doesn't have the chance of winning, Conor has already paid out 4 million on the low, and not a lot of people know about it.
Shown at the Mayweather fight, Sean Pierce's names, and this guy misspelled the word whiskey on it. So this guy can't even spell fucking whiskey. And now I know that
he misspelled the word whiskey, and he's getting 4 million for a whiskey. Put that in perspective, right? Like he literally, oh my goodness, man, Artem's got a good chance of winning this.
That guy sued Audi. That guy got paid 4.5 million and said that he was promised another 5. So he sued Audi for another 5. So you're telling me that some lad that can't even spell whiskey was promised 10 million, but me, Conor's brother, the guy that brought this deal to the table, you know what I mean, and was always loyal, never took a cent from Conor, and he wouldn't pay me my share, you know, as was promised. I put the biggest piece of meat on Conor's table, and he wouldn't cut me a tiny little slice so my family could eat too.
And so I saw recently. Can you explain this to me? I'm not a legal expert.
Wow, he said, "Man, I helped bring a big steak to Conor, and he can't even cut me a piece for my family to eat too." That is wild and crazy, man.
There was a ruling about 3 or so weeks ago where the court said you now have to pay for the legal costs because of a mistake in the date of when the interaction happened.
Yeah, no. So what happened was I found more evidence that I really wanted to submit that obviously was helping my case.
Yes.
Conor's team tried to block that evidence because it was too close to trial, you know, but so I had to go into court and my lawyers had to fight his lawyers, and I was allowed to accept evidence because the judge could see that this is real evidence, this is not some fake stuff, this is real, and just unfortunate that I found it so close to the trial, you know.
So there you go, right? Artem is building himself a case here. There's already a guy that was responsible for the labeling that already got paid 4 million. So why not Artem Lobov if he has substantial evidence to prove that he has helped create this idea with Conor McGregor and has helped also with the type of deals that he was going to put forth in it.
So I got a new trial date, but the costs I will reserve till trial, you know.
Okay.
So the costs are, you know, I don't have to pay any costs until the trial.
And when does the trial commence?
December. 9th of December.
9th of December, okay. And have there been any talks of settling out of court, trying to avoid going to trial?
You know what, man? Settling would probably be not the worst idea for Conor McGregor. I mean, considering that if he decides to settle, he could probably pay way less than what the courts are going to ask him to pay. And then on top of that, you got to remember, if you lose in Ireland, you have to pay for the legal costs of your opponent. Think about that.
Not yet. No, not yet.
Are you open to that?
You know, but for me, I want listen. Money, whatever money, I want my recognition. You know, I'm. Listen, this whiskey never happens without Conor, of course. That's why it was made for him. You know, but I'm also one of the co-founders. You know, and that's what I want to show in this court. I want to show all my work. You know, the amount of work I had to do for this whiskey.
Now, the way that Conor is looking at this, he's looking at it like, well, look, you didn't go out there and win these fights with me, you know, or this, or I mean, you didn't win these fights that I individually won. I mean, he did help him get there, get to the dance, but that's probably what's in the mind of Conor. Now, is it right? Probably not, but I'm just explaining to you the worldview that Conor has going on as a result of it.
You know, to go to market, it is just incredible, and I had some very unique know-how. You know, that as I said to you, even industry experts, you know, didn't see the potential in entry-level whiskey, because at the time, any entry-level whiskey that was launched was flopping, because Jameson was just taking up all the market share. But I could see, based on Conor's fans, I could see, you know, how he relates with fans. I could see his marketing power, and I knew that entry-level whiskey was the way to go. And I was absolutely right. And it didn't really matter in the end ultimately which whiskey, you know, we went with, because if you recall, when it first launched, the whiskey got sold out immediately, and people were trading on eBay empty bottles.
You know what? I do remember that. I also remember seeing a lot of trucks with the proper number 12s being put in different liquor stores around California and around the world, right? But now, yeah, obviously you don't see much of that, but I'm sure they still make a profit of some degree.
Was a whiskey. So they just cared about Conor and his name and his image and everything else, not really so much what's inside the bottle.
All right, so would that suggest that you are not open to settling? You want this to go to court. You want to be vindicated.
Listen, there could be, but I would like some kind of acknowledgement. You know, like, listen, we can. I want, you know, because what really got, you know, if you recall, I was going to do a book. You know, I wanted to do a book because they literally just pushed me to the side. No?
Wow. So how about this, right? It gets even better. Artem was going to do a book, but he explains why this book was not going to be a good idea.
No recognition for me, no money, no nothing. So I just wanted to do a book and write in the book everything, you know, that kind of went on and how I did the deal and how it all happened. So then once I announced the book, Conor contacted me and he was just saying to me, oh, you had nothing to do with the whiskey. What the fuck have you ever done? You know, just completely turning me, telling me all these things that I've never heard from him before. You know, as you've seen the messages I shared before, he was so always kind to me, saying, Artem, you know, you're my brother. You always have my back. With this whiskey and with this fight, you know, I'm going to look after you. So then he's telling me, you have nothing to do with this. You didn't do any of the whiskey. And I was like, hold on a second. This is all my work. My work is all over this. How can you say this? How can you do this to me? And I was still going to proceed with the book. However, when I met the lawyers to get some legal advice about the book, I was told straight away, listen, this book is never going to see.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to bring this up, right? That book was never going to see the light of day because, for one, that book was going to cause some kind of conflict, right? In terms of like, in terms of the lawyers trying to stop it, and then making it even more expensive because now you got to fight in court about it, right? It's just, yeah, it's no end in sight type of scenario, is what Artem Lobov is saying, and more so becomes more of an expensive type of lawsuit that they're going to have to fight, right? They're just going to be fighting with their lawyers back and forth every time, but yeah, I'll let Artem explain this one right here.
You know, the light of day. They're just gonna choose lawyers, and their lawyers are just gonna, you know, bring you to court, and you'll be fighting. You're gonna spend an absolute fortune on legal fees, and you know the book is not gonna come out for many, many years, and they're just gonna basically destroy you. The only way for you to be able to do the book and be able to tell the full story of what actually happened is to go to trial in the high court, because all the evidence that I give there is going to be protected, you know, and I will be able to do a book if I want to or whatever else afterwards, you know. So
wow. Okay. So what he is saying is that he's using the trial in order to allow himself to make the book after the fact. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, Artem is putting himself in a win-win situation. If he loses in court, he can go put out the book because the information will already be out in court. But if he wins, which I'm projecting that he's going to win this court case, he can also bring out the book, so he'll have more money coming to him as a result of that.
That's why I ended up in court.
Other than that conversation, they interaction with Conor, have there been any attempts to try to fix this just between the two of you, two old friends?
No, and that's another reason which tells me that he knows that, you know what I mean, that I'm in the right and he fucked me over, because he went on Twitter, slayed me, but never even sent one text or just a call saying, hey, what's going on? Let's sort it. Because he knows, you know, what can he tell me? He knows I've done it. He knows how much work I put in. He knows he shook my hand and promised me 5% no matter what. You know, so that's why he never tried to contact me. He just went.
All right, now that's crazy that Conor is actually capable of that, right? Like, everything that he is mentioning right now, I mean, just spells out classic sociopathic behavior in the part of Conor McGregor.
On Twitter and slayed me, you know what I mean, publicly, trying to, you know, basically bully me out of court or whatever else he was trying to do there with that, you know, but. You know, he should know that I don't tap, you know, and that's one of the reasons why he was my such a good friend and why he respected me for those exact qualities, you know. So how does he now expect me to just, you know, back down here? And he himself was then, you know, giving out to me for kind of backing down against Khabib, you know, and I said, listen, that was a mistake of mine, you know, I will never allow that to happen again, you know, and I stay by my word. So how did you want me to back down this time? No, I told him myself I would never back down again. And I'm sticking to my word. You know, I have to fight till the end. I'm not a guy to tap.
And so going back to the training camp, going back.
But I tell you what, the type of lawyers that Conor McGregor has, it's definitely going to test your attrition going into these, you know, trials, litigations, and lawsuits.
Back to SPG, are there any sort of interactions with him? Has this caused any sort of rift for you at the gym?
And look, this is the crazy part about it. These guys can still run across each other at the gym, as as Ariel Helwani, you know, asked Artem Lobov about this.
No, I mean, at the gym, we just kind of, you know, I train at the gym, you know, I don't really see him at the gym, you know. He's not really as much there. He's traveling, or, you know, he trains at the house. You know, he's got his own gym in the house. You know.
And then he goes into this conversation about Conor McGregor's training habits. This is where it gets really interesting on the MMA side of things, right here.
We see, but you know, we don't really see each other. But it hasn't really created any issues in the gym. You know, everyone just kind of. Because listen, you know, obviously everyone is his friend, but they're also my friends. You know, they know that I'm not a guy that, you know.
So in other words, the way that Artem is painting this is that everybody in that gym sort of has a neutral stance on knowing that these two guys have beef with each other, right? But they just get on with it. But what happens if Conor McGregor was to run across Artem in the gym, right? Like, what would happen? Like, I don't know if that ever crossed anyone's mind. I'm just curious to see if you know, if that has crossed your mind. I mean, are they going to be cordial about it? Are they not going to look at each other's direction? Would they just fight on the spot? And if so, would people try and stop them? Yeah, man, there's a lot that goes into that.
Ever, you know, was after money or whatever, you know, everybody knows that I'm a guy that never took a cent from him, that I always had his back. Even the situation with Khabib, why did I end up in that situation? Because there was an interview in Russian, and they asked me about some of the horrible stuff that Khabib said about Conor, you know, and this was in Russian. I could have very easily just said something, you know, nice and just, oh, whatever. Conor would have never seen it. It's in Russian, but not a chance. If you're my brother, I have your back, whether you see it or not. You never have to question my loyalty. I will never allow anybody to go out.
You know what, man? As somebody who supports Khabib and somebody who supported Khabib against Conor McGregor, I will say, man, Artem seems like a very loyal friend, somebody who is a loyal soldier, and for whatever reason, man, Conor lost that in his life.
That's you know, and that's what happened there, you know, and I will do the same 100 times over, even after everything that's happened to me as a result, you know. He had my back, and I always had his.
A lot has obviously happened with Conor over the last few years, and he's making this push now to be elected, to be a part of the next elections in Ireland.
So as soon as Artem is being asked about Conor McGregor running for Prime Minister in Ireland, straight away he shuts it down and basically shifts it back into fighting by saying, this is what Conor needs to do. He needs to get back into fighting.
And then what do you make of this?
I mean, Conor was always after those kind of, crazy achievements, but in my mind, he needs to just stop all the messing, all the partying, get back in the gym, and just get fit. Just real training, fuck all this, pretend training or whatever. Yeah, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just to show I'm doing some training. No, let's do real fucking training. And to me, I think the way forward is grappling. You should start with grappling. Just grapple, because grappling is fun and it will get your body, your ligaments, everything ready for fight again. His body is not fight ready anymore. It's just all the ligaments, all the little muscles, everything in your body. It needs to be fight ready. And I think jiu-jitsu will allow you to do that in a safe environment, because jiu-jitsu is very safe in terms of injuries. It's fun, and to me...
That's a very good point, what he said, right? Jiu-jitsu is a great way for Conor to get back into the fold and get ready and training. So, yeah, fight ready and training is what he means by that.
You should spend a few weeks first just grappling. Start with five fives, grappling 5 days a week, then build it up slowly up to 10 fives a day, and then from there, I guarantee you, once the fitness comes back to him, then he will start, the love for fighting will come back to him, and he will want to be in the gym, and he will want to have the sparring, he will want to have the wrestling, and everything else. So that's what I would like to see him do, not fuck all these presidential runs and all. That can be done down the line, But right now, he just needs to get his mojo back, get his confidence back, remove the doubt, because doubt is only removed by action. Action of training hard, sparring the best guys out there. When I was there in his camp, there was not a chance Conor could have gotten away with being unfit. Not that I'm something special or whatever, but it's just because I wasn't.
Yeah, what he's saying is that he would have never allowed Conor to slip like that. He would basically check him the whole entire time there. But yeah,
never going to take it easy with him, and he knew that. So once he enters to spar me, he has to be on point. He has to be in shape. So I hope to see him back in shape.
You know what's so fascinating about this, Artem? Even when you were talking about him getting back on track, you said the word "we." Even as you're talking about him here, and I was...
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting right here, where it kind of shows you, what, he was probably very genuine about all of this.
See, there's a lot of people criticizing him, and he has given people reasons to criticize him. You take no shots at him. You don't hit him below the belt. It almost seems genuine in that you want to see him get back to his old self, or at least attempt to get back to his old self. Despite everything that's happened between you two, it doesn't feel like there's any real animosity from you to him, or at least you're doing a great job of not letting it show here, because I don't feel that. I feel genuine warmth from you as you talk about him, despite this legal battle that you've been involved in that's lasted a couple of years now.
Yeah, I feel that if this was Conor of before, the guy that I know, we wouldn't have fallen out, and now it's completely different Conor.
Yeah, he says that he doesn't recognize this Conor anymore, and I think this is something a lot of fans have said about Conor McGregor recently.
Recognizing, just even to remind you, when he fought Mendes for the belt, he...
Now, here's what's an interesting story right here. Did you guys know that Conor McGregor sparred Rory McDonald during the time of when he was getting ready for Chad Mendes? And you know what happened while he was sparring Rory McDonald? He actually took Rory McDonald down, but it messed up his leg in the process, and Artem talks about it here in full details.
He messed up in the documentary. They didn't actually show the full truth, because he messed up his knee when training with Rory McDonald. I was there in Canada, when it happened, when Conor took him down and Rory jumped a scissor, sweep right on his knee, and the crack was so loud. I was there when Professor El-Kheer rang us and said, Conor, you're not fighting. You need another year, potentially 2 years, and another surgery. And Conor just said, no, fuck this, I'm fighting, and put the phone down. We couldn't even train for the camp. He was just doing rehab the whole time. And then in the documentary, they show when his knee went. That's actually the second knee. That's actually the good knee that went. So his ACL was messed up on one knee, and as we were training, doing grappling with 3 or 4 weeks left of the fight, he messed up his other knee, his MCL and meniscus went in his other knee. So now he was on no legs, he had 0 legs. He was on one leg and now suddenly on 0 legs.
Wow, so in the Chad Mendes fight, it was even worse for him because he had 0 legs, according to Artem here.
And Mendes gets put in against, rather than Aldo, a wrestler. We couldn't wrestle at all in camp. So this was just the worst fight you could possibly imagine. And what does he do? I'm fighting. I don't give a fuck. And now what? The Conor, what? He didn't even make it to the press conference with the sore toe. That's not the same Conor. This is not the guy that I know. I want to see the old one back, you know what I mean? And then I feel everything would be sweet between us as well, and we could get, the band back together. I would love to see him come back because I feel...
Wow, so he's even talking about bringing the band back together, right? Like, he really does care about this, this situation with Conor McGregor, which, again, kind of transition into, the main storyline here that Conor needs to change and what Khabib had said about him.
I feel that if he was at 100%, we would be able to bring Khabib back as well. I think that Khabib would come back for that fight if Conor was 100% and fit and, making real, moves, making real fights. He would just need one fight, knock the guy out, and then the whole world will be, talking to Khabib and getting him to come back. And then we would do a real, comeback fight. That would be a fight that for the ages. I know that fight bothers Conor because he didn't train at all for that fight. Twice a week he was training for Khabib, and I tried to get him into Vegas. I said to him, Conor, come on, let's go to Vegas, man. We have to do it. Come on, brother. He said, no, fuck off. You just want to go on a holiday. He just didn't want to do it. He was on the wrong mindset. He was in a party mindset. He was training twice a week. That's it. So when I saw the fight, I was like, oh my God, if only you trained 4 times a week, you probably would have beaten him. But imagine him with full camp.
Look, in my opinion, nobody is beating Khabib at any type of camp whatsoever. Not whatsoever at all, right? So, yeah. We're going to get to Khabib calling Conor McGregor out for this in just a second.
Conor that fought Alvarez, Imagine that Conor fighting Khabib. That's what I want to see.
2 last quick things, Artem. Brilliant stuff. Any interest in going back to bare knuckle? He's now a part of that as well.
Well, actually, funny you say this now. There could be opportunity for me to come back for bare knuckle, but bare knuckle still owe me money. Oh. My fight with Paulie Malignaggi.
Wow, so check this out. Bare knuckle still owes him money from the Paulie Malignaggi fight, right? So what they're doing is they wanted to use some of that money to invest more later down the road. So what they're saying is they're going to offer him more money with interest on top of what he was supposed to get paid, and he mentions it right here.
I never got my pay-per-view money.
What?
Reed Feldman that had made 200,000 pay-per-views, and he told me first, look, you have to wait for the pay-per-view, 8 months or whatever before we pay you. So I waited that. Then I was messaging. He was like, well, Artem, yeah, sorry, we just forgot. We're going to pay you. Then I finally got my legal team to contact him. And what he said to my legal team was, look, we love Artem, of course we're going to pay him. Unfortunately, at this time, we're reinvesting all the money back into bare knuckle. We want to make it, as big as possible. We're really riding a good wave, so we need to continue to reinvest. Once we're finally able to get some money out of it, of course we're going to pay him. So I'm waiting for this. I think, Dave is a man of his word. I think he will pay me.
Okay, so a little bit of a minor infraction there. He trusts Dave Feldman, the president of BKFC, that they're going to pay him for that. And he said once they pay him, then they can do business with him and get in there with somebody.
300,000 that they owe me. It's not that big money, but it's pretty big. Once they settle that with me, of course, we can do a fight, no problem.
Okay, wow. And that was from what, 2019? 2019, geez. Do you think that they are going to settle it?
Well, that's what he said. I'm taking him by his word. When he was talking to me, he was like, yes, I'm sorry. When I got my legal team to contact him, he said what I just told you.
Yeah.
Money. He said, I've put everything into this. And it's been, he says, I see the results. And I see that myself. They're doing good, and I understand what it takes to build the business, So I was like, okay, no problem. I will wait, reinvest the money, but don't forget about me. I made a difference for that company. I definitely put them on the map. You know, and this is something.
Yeah, he definitely did. That Paulie Malignaggi fight definitely put them on the map for sure.
That we agreed on. It's in my contract, and I hope that Dave, is a man of his word and pays me my pay-per-view money.
October 3rd, Dubai. Finally, after all these years, Artem Lobov, the return against Zubaira Tukhugov. What is the message to Zubaira after all these years, Artem? What do you want to say to this man as you are getting ready to fight him?
Zubaira, I hope you're as brave in there as you are when there's a gang of you against one. I hope you bring the same energy. Let's go start the cuddle party. I don't want to be cuddling around the cage, holding down. Let's fight. Mess up this face. Come on, this is bare knuckle king you're talking to here. I'm not afraid of punches. I'm not afraid of blood. So let's bleed. Let's have a proper fight. And look, if we get a real fight in, we shake hands afterwards. But it has to be a real fight.
Love.
Well, all right, there it is, right? So genuine interaction between Artem Lobov and Ariel Helwani nonetheless.
Freaking love it. Welcome back, Artem. You're the man. They call you the GOAT. You are the freaking GOAT. Incredible stuff. Not doing those interviews for 3.5 years, you built up incredible energy, and you saved it all for this moment, and you knocked it out of the park, my friend. So happy to see you back. All the best, dude. Good luck in training. And can't wait to see you in there on October 3rd. Thank you again, Artem. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ariel. And watch out for me. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Yeah, there he is. Artem, choo-choo, motherfuckers. We got it. We got it. That's incredible stuff right there. What a surprise. I got to tell you, when I started the week, I didn't think that we'd be talking to Artem Lobov on a Tuesday afternoon at 3:45 about a fight happening in October against Zubaira Tukhugov. But here we are.
Yup, and now from Tuesday afternoon to Tuesday night. All right, let's hear what Khabib had to say about Conor McGregor, and then we'll call it a day right here.
Nurmagomedov, when he was asked about the current situation of Conor McGregor, and this is how Khabib Nurmagomedov reacted to it. This was the best response or the best answer you can say for the people who were asking about Conor McGregor.
I want to mention that this is punishment. This is punishment, and keep doing this. Keep doing this. Everything will happen within 4 football, 2 months, this, alcohol, this, drugs, everything. This is punishment. It's beginning for but it's the most beautiful part.
1123 says hi. Hey, how you doing? Let me know what part of the world you are from.
Allah always give for us, everybody, a chance to come back. Always, we have always in this world, chance to come back, and this is most beautiful. It doesn't matter how you play. Allah can give you chance always.
All right, so those are some very good points right there by Khabib, right? He talks about how, there's always a chance to come back, right? And how a lot of these things that are happening to Conor McGregor is nothing more than a punishment from Allah. Also, another thing that we will have to learn about this live stream and the stories that we delved into is that you always have to watch out who your friends are. You don't know who they are or how they're going to become later on, right? People always say, well, money changes people, but Khabib has always said that it's not the money that changes people, it's money that shows who you are. If you are an a-hole before, you're a rich a-hole, this, that, and the other. So let me just make sure my audio is on good and popping for this one. Hold on just a second here. Let me make sure my audio is on.
Cross off your back-to-school beauty list at Sally. Ditch summer dryness with Moisture Care. Create matte.
Okay. Okay, so it is on. Okay, let's keep it going just to make sure. Okay.
Why I'm talking about this? If we're gonna change, we can change with him so many other lives too. And
he said that, hey, you know what? If Khabib said about Conor, if he can change, he's going to help change a lot of other people's lives too, right? So very interesting point for Khabib to make right there.
that's why I wish you to change yourself. If you're not gonna change,
He said that if he doesn't change, he's going to have the face punishment all his life. And you know what? That is true. You know, you can't live your life thinking that there is no punishment from the one creator, Allah Almighty. So
a true gentleman behavior from Khabib Nurmagomedov right there, and he just said that may Allah guide him, you know, because McGregor is not doing all right these days. Khabib Nurmagomedov forgot everything Conor said, and he said, just pray for that guy because this guy is not doing all right. You know, the same thing when the reporter asked Khabib about Tony Ferguson, when Tony Ferguson was calling Khabib out and he was saying some insane stuff to Khabib as well. So Khabib never said anything to Tony Ferguson. He said that I hope that he is all right. So, you know, Khabib is a truly class athlete and he knows how to respect the athletes. He knows their mental state. Even after everything Conor McGregor said, Khabib said that may Allah guide him. So this is just beautiful to watch. This is typical Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, I think so a lot of people are going to say that nobody expected that, but I think so.
yeah, I agree. I have to agree. I didn't expect that, but at the same time, you also have to understand Khabib is also in front of an Islamic audience where he has to show a sense of compassion. And I'm not doubting that he is. He obviously really is that guy. But yeah, beautiful nonetheless. So yeah, understand this, right? Final words of that. Money doesn't change who you are. It shows who you are. And those are some of the most beautiful words that Khabib has said. Shout out to MMA Squad. Let's hear the rest of this and call it a day.
People like Khabib, you know, you can expect that from Khabib as well. Khabib really cares Conor McGregor as a person. I don't think so Khabib cares about Conor McGregor as a fighter, but he cares about him as a person, and Khabib wants Conor McGregor a changed person. He wants to see some changes in Conor McGregor. So, you know, this is just beautiful from Khabib Nurmagomedov. So make sure you mention your thoughts about this recent.
Yeah, really, right? It's like one of those things that they said before, right? You know, if I can change, you can change. We all can change. And with that, I got to get out of here. Shout outs to the rest of you guys out there that have tapped in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah.